Yo, 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 what's going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today we are going to be giving you a quick rundown. So I got two big pieces here. One, we're going to show you how to calculate when new kingdom servers or new kingdoms are being released. And then the second thing, I'm going to give you a nice little special dose of what I think is just a quality idea on how they should be releasing new kingdoms in a way that can actually make kingdoms healthier and give them a higher percentage chance to be more sustainable over a long period of time than is different than what they currently do. I'm going to blow your minds away as usual because I'm awesome like a possum. Okay, number one is how do you calculate when new kingdoms are going to release? Now this is pretty simple. It's not really a lot of rocket science here. Just a it's a little dash, a little sprinkle. So again, this is my scout account. You can see here, I got a lot of accounts. I'm all the way up to 157. I think that's the newest kingdom that was just recently released, at least as of the video, it is. So, this is what you do. You would go to your settings, you go to account characters, you click create new character, and you have to look at the timings for when the latest kingdoms were released. You jot these timings down. You're probably going to need at least 5 or 6 of them if you're trying to get somewhat of a trend. And then I'm going to show you this now on a little notepad here. So here's our notepad, right? Here is, and we'll kind of show you what we did here. So notepad, what you're first going to do is you're basically just going to write down, you're going to calculate what the UTC time is, right? This is just how I do it because I just think it's easier because the game operates in UTC if you look at the top right corner. So what you're doing is you're looking at whatever your current time is, you're finding out what the current UTC time is, and then you're going to write down the time that the kingdom was released in UTC. This makes it easier because everything's now on the same, timetable or time metric. And so then what you do is you just jot down each kingdom when they're released. You can see I have them all here, right, for the last, 5? So then what you're doing is you're figuring out what the plus differential is between two kingdoms. So between 153 and 154, there was a 13-hour, 16-minute difference. Between 154 and 155, there was a 16-hour, 56-minute difference. Right, and these are all within about a 60-second margin, I should say. And then you have 155 to 156 was 13 hours, 6 minutes. 156 to 157 was 14 hours, 50 minutes. So you can see here I have 4 average time intervals. What you do is you just add all these up. And again, these are probably within a 1% to 2% margin. So what you do is you add them all up. I just did it simply. Instead of just adding everything up by minutes and then, dividing that, figuring out what my hours are total and then dividing it again. What I did is I just kind of, I did like, for example, 13 point is, I just did 13.25, right? Because again, 15 times 4, 60 minutes, right? So I'm pretty close in margin there. And remember, you're just, the idea is to try and get as close of an average as you can. If you want to be super technical and like to the T, again, more than welcome. So what you do is you add these 4 times up, you divide these by 4, and that's what got me 14.525 hours. That means that the average interval time, now this is important because there's 3 pieces here you have to keep track of. 1, you need to find out what your average interval time is between kingdoms opening. Then what you do is you go off of, then you need to factor in the additional 2 parts, which is when was the longest interval and when was the shortest interval. So in this case, 13 hours and 6 minutes is the shortest, and 16 hours and 56 minutes is the longest. So you need to assume that is your range, and then the average is your 14.52 hour interval that you're going to go off of, right? So you're going to say the new kingdom could open in as early as 13 hours, 6 minutes from now, and as long as 16 hours and 56 minutes for now, but we're averaging it's going to be 14 hours, 14.52 or 14.5 hours if you want to say it that way. And so this is in short how you go about calculating when new servers are going to open when it comes to getting an average. Let me be very clear there. This is not always going to be specific, and it may not always be 100% or even 100% proof at all. Remember, these are estimates. So now let me get to my second piece. How should kingdoms be releasing in a way that is going to make it so kingdoms on average can be healthier and more sustainable? Well, how do new kingdoms currently be released? From what we understand, a kingdom has to fill up to a certain amount of players at potentially a certain level. Let me give you an example here. So let's go to a new kingdom, because the kingdom I'm in right now isn't actually a newish one. So we're going to go to 27, and then I'm going to give you an example here. So we'll let this load up. Then we're going to go to the Augur Stone when this loads. We're going to look, I think, at one of the first two chapters, and I think there's one there that talks about like everyone has to be at level 4 or something like that. We're going to double check, and if it's not there, then I'll still make my point because it'll still be relevant. So let's look here. I'm going to go all the way to the left, and you're going to see, oh yeah, so here it is. So it's the very first one, right? 7,500 lords must upgrade their cities to level 4 by the end of the countdown. Let me point something out here. My view on this is that this, to me, needs to be what I believe is a kind of a hard, one of two ways here. One, you make this a hard, achievable chapter where the other timelines of the next chapter does not start until you meet this one. This needs to be like a hard accomplish, where it has to be accomplished or not. Now, my view on this actually is that this should be higher than level 4. Why do I say that? This to me is, and I'm going to say this in a very caring way that is not meant to be insulting to the developers or to the game itself, but level 4 is a direct insult to my face. And let me explain why it is. Because it is not difficult to hit level 4. Hitting level 4 does not show that you as a player are going to stay playing for a long period of time. Bear in mind, really for that matter, no level does. But the one thing that will give us a higher percentage chance of having more players play is if you were to raise the level. Why? Because the longer that you play and the higher level you reach, the more likely it is that you're going to stay playing. So that's why, to me, level 4 is just too small. It's too low of a level. My view on it is take, for example, they have to have data on how high of a level you can, and I'm talking free-to-play, and you have to look at it from that approach first. What is the average level that a free-to-play can hit in 24 hours if they join an alliance and they're getting full max helps and using their speed-ups, as an example, right? Like the starting stuff. I would have to assume it's somewhere maybe between like 9 and 12 would be my hope. And for those of you, if you are, and again, I can't remember and recall everything right now for how I did it on my account, but somewhere like 9 to 12, I think is a nice spot. Why do I say this? Because once you hit level 12, you're now no longer able to use your, your region relocation item, right? So thinking about if you raise this level, and instead of 7,500, why not say 10,000? This way, you know for a fact you're getting more players in here into kingdoms that you know you're not. And what you do is you do not release the new kingdom until these marks are hit. Sure, would it potentially slow down the release of new kingdoms? Probably. But would it ensure something far more important, which is having a lot of players in kingdoms to make them as healthy as possible to increase the probability of those players playing for longer because they know they're getting into densely populated kingdoms that they are more likely, I should say, to play in a kingdom that is super active versus not hitting your goal, for example, in this. And I'm not saying anything's bad here at 27. I'm just giving an example, which is that this should be hit before a new kingdom comes out, in my opinion. So this is something, now whether it's that or it's a version of or variation of, this is something I think is very important and one of the leading causes to why, and I'll give you an example here, right? When I was playing Infinity Kingdom for a while, there was a number of kingdoms that were released. I think it was in the 20s or 30s. And you ended up seeing a number of kingdoms during a little after beta that were severely underpopulated. It was a crime on how underpopulated they were. And it went on for like 7 or 8 kingdoms in a row before it started getting a little bit better. And this is one of those things that the developers actually have the opportunity to address in a positive way. And again, I don't want to sit here and ramble too long, but this is just something I would love to see an improvement on, because I think it would be a lot better overall for the game and for what the developers want. Because you think about it from a developer standpoint. What do they want? They want high activity. They want high player retention. They want as many people playing the game as possible for as long as possible, because the longer they play and the more they play, the higher chances are that those players may spend money. And so, and again, that's just one way of looking at it. But to the point, you would assume and hope that the developers would be interested in looking at how to make the game more sustainable and more and increase the replayability of said game. So anyways, that's my thing. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comments down below. Hopefully from now on, you will be able to do a good job at calculating when new kingdoms are coming out, as long as this kind of current system stays in place. And if it changes, then, we'll definitely try to put out something else at that time. That's going to do it as always. For me, your boy, I am out. As always, until next time, I'll catch you later.